fam, that's what they call me.
Hi everybody, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new, hi, how are you? How you doing? So in today's video, we're gonna go ahead and talk about a messed up story. And let me tell you, you about to get mad. I'm not gonna even lie, you're really about to get mad. It got me mad. But without further ado, I just have to go ahead and let you know that this video does contain some graphic and horrifying situations, so viewer discretion is advised. Alrighty, without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and start talking about a case that had happened in New Orleans, and this started in 1835. And you know what, it just anyways, the lady's name is Madame LaLaurie. Madame LaLaurie, she had 3 marriages, and after the 3rd marriage she had divorced. She ended up having 3 girls. They moved into a mansion in New Orleans, and everything just went downhill from here. So the first incident that happened was a 12-year-old girl named Leah. Leah was one of her youngest slaves that she had newly bought, and during that time period, slaves were, you know, it was just a big thing back then. So she went ahead and she got her, and one night she was just brushing her hair and she ended up having a knot in her hair. So Madame LaLaurie ended up hitting her with a whip. As any 12-year-old girl would do, she ran away, just scared of what the punishment may have been. So what she did, she went to the roof and jumped to her death. And all this was witnessed by a neighbor who didn't even report it to police, nothing like that, just let it happen. The next situation, and let me tell you, this is unfortunately where things do get graphic. She used to torture her slaves a lot, and the way that she would torture them, she had different equipment that she would use on them. And the first one would have been a collar that had razor sharp, you know, like razor sharp stuff in the collar, and she would put the smallest one in with the smallest ones that she would put on the slaves. That will cause them to go ahead and tear the skin, as well causing a slow, painful death. And she found that as a pleasurement for herself, which is really effed up. But of course, the time period, that was just a normal thing, unfortunately. The second way she would torture them would be a iron mask. That mask would fully cover the face, which would cause them not to eat, which would lead to starvation, dehydration, and just another way of a slow death. The other way that she would also punish them would be whipping them. And there was 9 whips, and with those whips were some metal balls that were attached to the end. And that would eventually lead to the skin tearing, as well as flesh just obviously ripping out. And she wouldn't stop until they were full of blood or them dying. And gentlemen, you're gonna hate this part. She would torture the men mostly. It's still unknown why she attacked the men more, but she just had a lot of hatred toward the men. She would hang them by the wrist and slowly cut pieces of their genitals until eventually completely cutting it off. She would also go ahead and grab a sharp knife and cut around the joints, particularly making a precise circle around the joints. She would also like to go ahead and, with her own hands, take their eyes out. And she did all of this while they were still alive. Another form of punishment that she would do would be grabbing a handmade spoon and making a hole in the skull until it would reach the other side of the skull. Once that was achieved, she went ahead and put the spoon until the handle would completely go through. And if it wasn't that and the hole was already made, she would go ahead and put a fireplace, you know, the little picks and stuff they put in the fireplace to move the wood. Yeah, she would put one of those into the hole and just start rearranging the brain as another way of punishment. And again, they were still alive throughout the whole process. And one of the witnesses, which would be one of the other slaves that were working for her, they claimed that there were maggots already going in to the skull, and they were just helplessly there, dying slowly. It was also claimed that she did torture one lady. She ended up tying the individual, and she cut her open, rearranged everything, like all her internal organs and everything like that, and ended up putting her stomach, and she just wrapped around the her intestines and everything around her, and they found her body like a couple months after. I don't know how she lived with herself. I don't know why that was so satisfying to her. Obviously, she didn't see them as human beings. She saw them more as objects and just things that she could just throw away and replace, which is not the case, because nobody on earth deserves that. She also tortured her own daughters. She would whip them and just do other forms of punishments, but never as much as she did with the slaves. And let me tell you that, your own kids, and who tells you to go ahead and open your legs if you're gonna torture your kids like that? If that was my mom, like back then, I would have been like, let's go. I don't know how you can do that to your own kids. It was claimed that she did have a 70-year-old servant that was the chef, the main chef, that would cook all her meals, and she tied her up to the stove and ended up letting her starve to death. 70 years old, practically helpless to even defend herself. And not just that, she did torture an 80-year-old man in the attic. And that one was gruesome. She just ripped out his eyes and cut him up and just let him die there. It was also told that she went ahead and tortured another male. She had this little device where she would just go ahead and tie them up from their feet to their wrist, and she will pull on opposite sides until the muscles and joints and bones were completely just detached. And it was not even, it was just crazy. And like I said, how she just rearranged the organs and everything. It was told that if you were to go into the attic, if you were going towards the back, she had cages that they barely fit in, and some of them look unhuman, like they look like spiders and everything, just because of the way she rearranged it. She thought she was, you know, making Frankenstein or something. Like, she thought it was just a fun little experience that she can just do, thinking like these are objects. They're not objects. After all these torturements had happened, a fire did break out at one point. Neighbors came rushing to the mansion, making sure that everybody was safe. They ended up finding Miss Madame LaLaurie and her 3 daughters, took them out, and they went back in to see if anybody else was in the facility. And they ended up going to the 3rd floor, which was her little torture chamber, and they found the slaves that were tortured there. She didn't even bother on giving them a proper burial or anything like that. She just left them there to rot. And so they go ahead and they find them, and the ones who did survive, they ended up helping them out. But the one that she was literally tearing apart was unable to walk. Obviously his muscles and everything were just ripped completely. So for those who did survive, they ended up leaving with horrifying experience. And I just don't understand why. Like, if it was me, I would like gang up on her and I would have just ended her right there and then. But it was just different back then. It was crazy. But once they went ahead and found the little torture chamber, they told everybody in town. And a couple days after the fire, a mob broke out in front of her house. She was so terrified and ran off with her 3 daughters. It was unknown exactly where they were located at. They were out of New Orleans, and it was unknown as well if she was in a relationship. But as far as that, she did die of natural causes, and her daughters eventually moved away from her mom and got married and had a family of their own. And just to finish this video off, there is claims that if you go to New Orleans, you will see the ghost of Leo, which was a 12-year-old that jumped to her death. And people did, like, they did go there before for tours, and this one lady had reported on the little web page that they have that she did feel somebody tugging on her purse. And it was crazy because at the same time the tour guide was talking about the younger lady that jumped, and the light started flickering as soon as he said her name. And then in another report, there was these 2 young girls, and they came screaming and crying. There was bruises and scratches on their body. Mother asked what had happened, and they claimed that they saw Madame LaLaurie and that she did it. And let me tell you, that gave me goosebumps. I don't know how crazy you gotta be to be going over there. Like, even if a Ghost Adventures were to take me, I'd be like, no, why wait for you right here, have my holy water and everything, because trust me, I am not down to physically experience paranormal stuff. It's one thing to see it and read it, but it's another to actually go experience it. But that is what I have for today's video. If you did like it, make sure you subscribe, like, turn on your post notification, and make sure you drop a comment down below. And I hope you guys are ready for the next video. Other than that, bye.